The Girl and the Bear. A girl, rejected by her own village, hurt by the whole world, and silent from pain. She finds protection not from others, but from herself, in the most unexpected place. The heart of a wild bear. The village of Drabok, a small settlement hidden among hills and pine trees, woke under dark skies. Thick clouds covered the land since morning. In a wooden house at the end of the main road, in the attic, a girl named Amelie sat, trembling from the cold, her face buried in her knees. Her eyes were red from held-back tears. Heavy footsteps echoed through the hallway, mixed with the clinking of bottles and rough voices. Sharp words pierced the silence, and Amelie knew better than to answer. "I won't come back until after dark," she whispered as the noise faded. Clutching an old blanket, she crept downstairs, grabbed a piece of dry bread, and slipped out the back door. There was only one path she ever took, into the forest. It was the only place where no one shouted, no doors slammed, and no one told her to be quiet. The trail, hidden by thick bushes and wire fence, led her into a green tunnel of leaves. She knew every stone, every root. The songs of birds calmed the pressure in her chest. At last, silence. She sat on a mossy stone and looked into nothing. "One day," she whispered, "this will all change." Sunlight tried to break through the tall branches. The scent of wet earth and pine filled the air. Here, fear didn't scream louder than hope. And somewhere deep in her chest, she began to breathe again. A sound, the flutter of leaves. Amelie froze. "Is someone there?" she asked in a trembling voice. The forest replied not with words, but with something greater. A gentle stillness, full of meaning. Only when she could breathe freely again would she return home. That night, she slipped back into the attic and curled into her usual corner. "Tomorrow, I'll go back there," she whispered. "Only there, I can be myself." The morning was cold. The ground was damp, leaves crunching under her small feet. She slipped a piece of bread into her patched coat pocket and made her way toward the woods again. Her face was still swollen from last night's crying, the same hollow look in her eyes. As she passed the rusty fence, wind stirred the trees. She called out to the forest and approached the large stone where she sat before. But then a sound, slow, dragging. Her heart raced. High grass shifted. As she came closer, breath shaky, she gently pushed aside the branches. Time stopped. A bear cub, covered in thick black fur, lay on the ground. One of its paws was torn, a chunk of wood embedded with splinters. It opened its eyes, not in anger but pain. She stepped back, body trembling. Every instinct told her to run, but her heart kept her still. The bear didn't growl. It didn't move suddenly, just heavy, pained breathing. "Does it hurt?" she whispered. The bear didn't answer. She looked at the bread in her pocket, pulled it out, and gently tossed it near its nose. It sniffed, then slowly ate. "I'll come back tomorrow. I promise," she said, and ran toward the fence, heart pounding. But in her chest now lived something new, a quiet kind of courage. That night, lying in the attic, she whispered, "You'll be okay, I swear." Because among silence and pain, something strange and beautiful was growing, a real friendship. The next morning brought fog and wind. She walked barefoot, carrying a thin blanket and a slice of apple, her heart heavy, but filled with hope. The bear was still there. It lay with its injured paw outstretched, eyes tracking her every move. Amelie stood at a safe distance. "I brought food," she said softly. "Just a little warmth." She laid the blanket on the ground and set the apple gently on a dry leaf. The bear moved slowly, sniffed the apple, then began to chew, its body calm. Amelie knelt quietly, eyes to the ground. Between them was no fear, only the peaceful sound of the forest. The bear lay down, resting its head on its healthy paw, and closed its eyes. His breathing slow, steady. Amelie smiled. A small, genuine smile. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of being near someone. She wasn't alone in her pain. Before leaving, she folded the blanket and left it by the bear as a quiet gift. When she returned to the village that evening, there were no screams, no insults, just the memory of silence shared by two wounded souls. In the heart of a village hidden among mountains and forest, time moves slowly. Mornings are cold, nights colder still, but Amelie no longer counts the days. She lives only for her visits. The bear gives her something no human ever has: peace. He still avoids others, still limps through the woods, but when they meet, no words are needed, just the silent promise: you are not alone anymore. With animals? It must be madness, the boy said and laughed loudly. Amelie behaved as if she had one. If you don't hear him, you're always sitting in the back of the room, staring out the window at the forest. Faraway places, the only places where the heart finds peace. One winter morning, the teacher called Amelie to the classroom and asked, "Hand me your notebook," he said, reaching out. Her sleeves rolled up just below her shoulders. A dark violet color appeared in the room. Everything went quiet. "Who is this girl?" the teacher asked. He approached. "Nothing," she said. "I knocked on the door." He answered. The teacher lowered his eyes, not believing. During the break, he called the principal. A social worker was called, and they started asking questions. But Amelie said nothing. Fear outweighed the pain. On the way home, her father was standing at the door with red eyes and the strong smell of alcohol. The heavy door hugged the girl and handed her belongings. "Invent a stranger, calm down or it'll get worse," Amelie replied. He didn't go to the attic. His hands hurt, eyes were wet. His heart felt like shattered glass. The next morning, he left early without eating, walking quickly toward the forest. And the bear was still in the same place, lying near the leaves and touching them. The girl sat beside him, pulled at his sleeve, and showed that the wound was just like that. No one outside could see how the bear roared loudly inside. Laying her head on his lap and slowly closing her eyes, Amelie ran her hand through his thick fur and felt his warm breath on her cold skin. At that moment the pain became lighter, not gone, but he stayed silent for a while, because there was someone who understood what lived inside her without a single word. The afternoon sky seemed heavier than usual. Thick clouds darkened the place. The sun and wind scattered dry leaves along the path in the forest, and Melishla walked slowly with short steps. His heart felt heavy. Red eyes revealed a restless sleep. In the pocket of an old piece of cloth, bread. In his soul, a heavy silence. When he reached the cliff, he saw the bear lying in the corner as usual, head resting on its paws. "I'm sorry it took so long," the girl said, sitting cross-legged on the floor. The bear lifted his nose, took a deep breath, and said nothing, just looked at Amelie. He took the bread and placed it on a stone, then bowed his head and wept. "I received it today. The thought of disappearing," he whispered in a trembling voice. "But then I remembered you." Her small hands covered her face. Her body trembled slightly. The bear slowly came closer and lay beside him, resting his head on the girl's leg. The warmth of the fur, the weight of your presence spoke louder than any word. "You're all I have," he continued. His face was still wet. "I know this may seem small, but please, stay with me." He disappeared. The bear let out a hoarse sound, almost human, a sigh. His tail moved slightly as if he understood. Amelie pressed her forehead against his. closed her eyes, and left. Take a deep breath in this silence. Time flows slowly, leaving only sounds. Birds chirp and leaves rustle behind in the forest. Life goes on at its natural pace, unhurried. When the girl stood up, the bear was still there, calmly watching Amelie. He took a shiny golden button from his bag, the last gift from his mother, still carefully kept. It's just a button, but it's all that's left. Now it's yours. He placed the button beside the bear's muzzle and slowly walked away. Before vanishing into the bushes, he looked back. The bear was still watching. And in that moment, the world seemed less harsh, because where there is loyalty, there is silence. Cold came early that year. Even before sunrise, the ground was covered with frost, and the forest seemed quieter than ever. A group of men stood outside the bakery. Thick coats, leather boots, low but firm voices, large footprints on the floor. "Transmitter 10 is near the Doring family's chicken coop," said a man with a thick beard. "It's not a boar." Another shook his head angrily. "It could have been just a bear I've never seen here before. We saw such a huge animal, and this village has too many children who might be in danger." A third man, an old one, silently pointed with a coal-stained finger. "Let's deal with this before it becomes a headline the Mayor Martin finds out about." A few minutes later, he said quietly, "If it's a bear, it's wild. Such animals are not close to humans." While the entire village made plans, Amelie gathered leftover bread from a kind woman's kitchen. Leaving it near the ruined warehouse, she carried everything in a wrapped cloth. Hiding under her coat in the forest, the bear with the golden button waited, staying at her feet while she worked. Seeing the girl approach, he shook his head and mumbled quietly. Amelie divided the cake into pieces and set them down gradually on a stone. "They're after you. I hear the men talking. They want to hurt you. They say you're dangerous," she said. The bear remained calm. His eyes were on the girl, but I knew her. "The truth is, I know that you just want to live peacefully like me." Later, as Amelie lay in the attic, she couldn't sleep because of the photograph. Village groups, gunshots, clicks, everything felt like a threat. Her heart pounded. Fear spread through her body. The next day, a banner would hang at the forest entrance. "Dangerous wild animals in Frace." Big red letters. Everyone in the village would know. The secret had now become a problem. But the girl's heart was wounded again. This bear was not just an animal. He was also protection. And losing him would be like losing her last hope. I'm sure this story may seem unbelievable because of its relevance. Between a wounded child and a bear who simply wanted to live peacefully. But it touched her. Surely now, I would like to make a simple request. Leave a comment below. I love stories about animals. It shows that you're really following the story and contributing to it. This story touches more hearts than it seems. The red sign at the forest entrance screams. Big letters warning of danger. But Amelie knows the real danger lies in the hearts of those who did not listen. The whole village talked about the bear. Some shut their doors in fear. Others went out with weapons, ready to hunt what they didn't understand. In that icy cold, the next day Amelie hid behind the sawmill and listened to two men talk. The mayor gave the signal. "In 2 days we go in with dogs. Clean it up. Better to finish this quickly. If they find it dead, no one will ask questions." The girl clenched her fists, her throat tightening, her whole body freezing. He didn't run because he was cold, but because he feared something was bound to happen. He climbed to the attic for the old lantern. With a leftover blanket and a piece of bread, he went into the forest without saying a word. The wind in the branches whispered as if in a hurry. The bear was still in the same place. His eyes were watchful, as if he already knew. "It's time to go," Amelie said softly. The bear stood. He slowly covered the girl's back with the blanket and pointed south, where the bushes were thick. "A hidden road. Let's find another place, just ours, where no one will see us." The two of them followed him silently. The ground was slippery. Because of the frost, Amelie stumbled twice but did not stop. The bear stepped back a few paces and kept glancing at her. On a nearby vacant lot, a stream flowing through dry branches became a simple shelter. Amelie tore off broad leaves and spread them on the ground. She lay down on the blanket and closed her eyes. While the sound of water calmed her heart, the bear lay on its side and embraced the girl with its body. The warmth of the stone chased away the cold of that night. The eyes of the village and two hearts were wounded, with no strength left to run. A house with a wall sometimes becomes a forest. It's enough to have people there. Even though I said nothing, I still decided to stay. The first snowfall came early in the morning without warning. Snowflakes fell densely from the sky, quietly covering the land. The tree branches that sheltered the clearing could no longer withstand the cold. Amelie woke up with purple lips. Her body trembled. Her breathing was weak. She tried to get up, but her legs were weak, her fingers numb, her eyes heavy. No bread. The day before, the stream had frozen, and cold wind seeped through the cracks in the roof. The bear slowly approached the girl's tender chest and sniffed her, turning toward her stretched body, then circling it. He scraped away the snow with his paws and pulled out dry leaves. Branches and bits of bark expanded and formed a sort of nest beside the girl, covering her body with the warmth of the thick stone. Amelie began to resemble a living blanket. Her breath and heartbeat slowly calmed. Returning to the trail, snow continued to fall slowly. In the coming days, forest seemed to have slept in my blanket and the white blanket. A group of lumberjacks passed the clearing. One of them heard a muffled sound coming from the bushes. He carefully approached through the trees and saw a scene that startled him. A bear lying atop something. Under the animal's bulk, a piece of fabric was visible. The woodcutter's eyes widened. "Oh God! There's someone there!" he shouted to the others. The men approached. One raised his shotgun, but the elder raised his hand. "Wait, look carefully." One of the men gently pulled back the blanket, and along with her eyes, the face of a girl appeared, closed but alive, breathing faintly but steadily. The bear remained still, as if knowing it was the only way to save Amelie. No one could speak with her. None of them believed it was just luck. Because of the bear, the moment touched them more than the one when the world flipped, and he was called a monster. He showed what it means to be human. The lumberjacks stood in a circle around the scene. No one spoke, as if any sound might startle the bear. One of them stepped forward and pointed at the bear. His fingertips trembled. "It's alive. The animal is breathing. It could attack any second," he whispered, staring intently. "Draw your weapon." "Disappeared?" the eldest said, glancing back. "That's not it. He's not attacking. He's protecting her. The girl is wrapped like in a cocoon by the bear. Her eyes were half open, her face pale, but her chest rose and fell. Slowly, a man knelt and reached out. "Amelie, can you hear me?" The girl opened her eyes for a moment and mumbled something no one understood, then closed her eyes again. The bear turned its head slowly, not growling, not hiding her. "Move slowly, otherwise this could end badly." Two men helped. The blanket moved closer. They gently pulled it over the girl's body. The bear did not resist, nor did it follow. He simply watched. When the girl was gone from sight, the bear stood, walked to the edge of the clearing, and lay down, as if completing his mission. The lumberjacks rushed with the girl in their arms, protecting her with all they had. The youngest of the group kept glancing back. "I've never seen anything like that before," he said. The elder spoke softly. "The whole world doesn't understand what happened." The girl was taken to the nearest hospital. Her body was weak, but the doctor said they made it just in time. Recovery would be slow but possible. Meanwhile, the bear remained hidden in the forest among the trees, attacking no one, making no threats, only leaving large tracks in the snow. The silence of those who did what had to be done in the village spread the news to every ear that dared to listen. Few, but no one could deny the wonder of a child who lived with a bear. It touched everyone. In this village, true love needs no words, only courage. Tomorrow the church bell will ring 3 times. The sound will echo through the village. If it wanted to draw attention to something greater, the people would gather at the square. Amelie's name quietly passed from lip to lip. Some whispered, others just listened. With tired eyes and a serious face, the mayor climbed onto a wooden box, where the girl still lived. Found in the middle of the forest, protected by a bear. Whoever saw him, don't forget the heavy silence. Someone raised their hand. The animal stilled. "You shot him?" The mayor scratched his head, took a deep breath, and replied, "No one here sees a threat, just an animal trying to protect itself." A woman in the back of the crowd folded her arms and shouted, "He's a monster. He'll eat the child." "Now everyone be quiet." One of the lumberjacks, the oldest, walked a few steps behind me. "This is what I saw with these eyes. There was no anger in them. Be careful, girl covered in snow. Without the warmth of that body, I'd be lifeless." If only everyone could see. They spent weeks sowing fear, armed themselves and locked their doors. But no one stopped to listen to the child. No one asked where they felt safe. "We feel judged," said the priest with tears in his eyes. "You're judged even without anyone knowing, just because things look different at school." The principal and students formed a circle and held up a drawing. A bear and a child. God and God beneath the tree. The children's silence spoke louder than any question. In Deering House, where Amelie sometimes lived, her mother lit a candle in the window. He brewed tea, pulled back the blanket, and left a note on the table. "Whenever you want to return, this door remains open." For a time, the forest was silent. No patrols. The new bear's trail vanished into the woods, and no one ever saw its dark eyes again. Its fur was thick, but whoever saw it would never forget. Where once they spoke of guns and hunting, now they speak of respect. And everyone stays quiet, thanks to the girls and the bear who chose to protect them even without needing to. Someone will understand. This story, which touched many people around the world, begins here with a girl who left her city. Comment below and let's see which city gets the most comments. The hospital stood on a hill, surrounded by tall trees and crumbling walls. From her small room, Amelie looked out the window. Her face was pale, her eyes fixed on the cloudy sky. Her mind was full of memories. The scent of Valdez still lingered in her clothes. The silence of the bear still kept her company in her chest. A nurse entered, spread out the sheets, and offered her hot soup. The girl nodded slightly and accepted. Her lips spoke only a few words. "That's all I wanted to say." By evening, a social worker with tied-up hair and a serious face came to the forest. "I need to ask you a few questions," he said, sitting by her bed. Amelie remained silent. Her fingers clutched the blanket tightly. "How are you doing? Why did no one know where you were? Did you really live there?" The girl tried to speak, but no sound came out. The assistant insisted, asked more questions, writing down every incomplete answer, and then left without looking back. Quiet conversations filled the corridor. doctors and police analyzing cold reports. No one asked what the child actually felt. Meanwhile, in the village, a council gathered. The mayor sat at the front, tapping 2 fingers on the table. This girl needs a home, a safe place. And the bear? Is it gone? If it doesn't return, maybe it left elsewhere. But no one asked the girl what she wanted. No one listened to the only one who knew the truth. In the hospital, Amelie scratched at paper. She handed over a simple drawing. A bear lying beside a girl under a tree with falling leaves. The doctor said nothing. Below was a small line of text. He saved my life. That's what matters. The doctor read it silently and looked at the girl with new eyes. That night, strong winds howled outside. The sound reminded Amelie of that day, the rustling leaves in the forest. She slowly closed her eyes, wishing the world could know. Sometimes, the one who saves you isn't the one who shouts the loudest, but the one who understands your silence. Amelie eventually left her old state-provided car by the village gates. Nobody said anything. Some windows opened for a second, then closed. They said she left for Dorings, where a woman with a blanket in her hands and hot soup on the table was waiting. The smell of potatoes and onions woke Amelie. Memories returned, but her heart was still tense. Her room was ready. If you want to stay silent, that's okay. I just want you to know. You don't need to be afraid here. Amelie thanked her with a gentle wave. Later, she climbed the stairs and sat by the window. The distant forest was still covered in snow, but her desire to run there grew stronger. 2 days later, the girl put on a thick coat and an old shirt. She shivered and said nothing. She followed the familiar path into the clearing. The trail had changed. The branches had dulled. The trunks still marked the ground. But the smell was still there, the earthy scent of wet soil alive and real. Reaching the big rock, Amelie sat down, waiting in silence. The wind slowly died. No sound. No movement. She called softly into the air. The faint whistle, like always. Please come back. Her eyes wandered across the clearing. Her heart beat faster. Her body trembled more from longing than cold. She stayed there for hours, unmoving until midnight. The hanging branches and leaves caught her attention. A tuft of familiar, dark fur clung to the bark. Amelie held it gently, pressing it to her chest. Close your eyes. You're okay, wherever you are. On her way back, the sun barely pierced the clouds, but it was still there. She didn't smile, but her steps grew firmer. In her bag, a feather, a beating heart filled with silent power. Some presences, even when far, never truly disappear. Those who protect you with their body forever stay in your soul. Years passed like the wind. The village slowly changed, new families arrived. Homes were repaired. Rumors of the bear faded, but not from Amelie's heart. No memory is ever truly erased. When she grew up, Amelie returned to the village with confident steps and deep eyes. She wore rubber boots, carried a backpack, and held a tablet in her hand. An ecological group followed her through the forest, once her sanctuary. We want to create a protected area here, Amelie said calmly. Mayor, this place saved my life. I want other children and animals to have that same right. The mayor, older now, listened silently. He nodded slowly. The village still remembered much. Things were different now. Maybe it was time to recognize what this place had become. Workshops for village youth started. Amelie led them, working patiently. She spoke about balance, about listening. She didn't use big words, only showed how a forest could teach if you were ready to learn. One day, as the group scattered to collect soil samples, Amelie walked the old path alone. The damp earth brought back powerful memories. She teared up. She sat near the big rock, leaned her tablet against it, and closed her eyes. A branch moved. Heavy steps rustled dry leaves. She remained still, eyes shut, heart racing. A deep, hoarse breath echoed from the forest. Amelie turned slowly. Through the bushes, a gray bear stared silently. Her body froze. No doubt in her chest. This presence was real, unique. She calmly stood up, reached into her pocket, and pulled out a golden button. She held it out. The bear didn't move. He simply stood, breathing slowly. A strong wind blew down the road. Observers from afar couldn't hear the quiet moment. Some whispered, hoping for courage to bring the bear home again. As if no time had passed, Amelie's eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing. She let the silence speak for itself. He took another step forward, sniffed the golden button, pressed his nose to her hand, then lay down beside her, at the same rock where it all began. In the distance, a child walking the empty road stopped suddenly. His eyes widened as he saw the bear. The group rushed in to protect. But what they saw froze time. A woman calmly sitting, a bear lying beside her. No fear, no rush, just presence, just trust. The mayor gasped and removed his hat, bowing his head to a photographer who never existed. The image didn't become shocking world news. It became a symbol, a magazine article, a documentary. With public support, an eco-education center was built. Children came to learn, to live with animals, to respect the forest. The project was named Amelie's Refuge. At the center stood a simple statue, a girl sitting beside a bear, with a golden button. No grand signs, no long speeches, just a phrase, unconditional love and protection. Years passed. The bear was never seen again. Some say he lives alone in another part of the forest. Others believe he still walks between the trees. But Amelie's visits never stopped. She always brought a red apple and a piece of bread. And she never had to explain herself again to anyone who listened, because understanding love without words is something no one there will ever forget.